All right, everyone. Make your way into any comfortable seat on your mat. Feel free to bring a blanket or a towel under you. And I should mention that you might actually want to have a blanket or towel with you today so you can use it to support your knees as we're going to be on our knees a little bit. And also so you can sit on it and add a little height to your seat, help your low back to lengthen. Just taking a moment to let yourself settle in. You might sit cross-legged, but you can also extend one or both legs out in front of you, or kneel or sit on a pillow or a yoga block. Allow your gaze to soften toward the floor, or just let your eyes close. And I'll invite you all just to begin today with a little bit of rhythmic movement as we tune into our breath and our bodies for the first minute or two of our practice. So just keeping your face, your jaw relaxed, let's start to gently sway the upper body. Just gently rocking your weight from one sits bone to the other. And you might rock very small movements side to side. Just moving around that center line with your spine. Or you might start to lean a little further, finding more of like a snake-like movement with your back, your shoulders, your head. Just noticing your breath as you start to let your spine find a little flow here. And just as you're moving, I want to say a few words about practicing yoga from home. I know you're practicing on your own right now, and I'm not able to see your practice. So I'm going to offer lots of options for our practice today, and I just encourage you to find the variation of each pose that really feels the most comfortable, the safest, and the most accessible in your body. Well, there's not a hierarchy in yoga. One pose is not better than the other. Just different poses for different bodies and for different moments. Sometimes we want a gentler, more restorative practice to support our body to relax. And sometimes we might want to challenge and push ourselves a little bit to build some heat and some strength, just so we can feel that energy moving in our bodies in a really vital way. So just take care of yourself. Start to make your movement side to side a bit smaller. Just coming back toward that center line. And as you do, find a little length in your spine, letting your heart lift, your shoulders draw down your back. Lowering your chin just a little bit to keep your neck long, the crown of your head extending up toward the ceiling. Let's draw in a deep breath through the nose and then sigh it out your mouth. Starting to move. Eyes can stay closed or you can blink your eyes open. Inhale, reaching both arms out and up. Today, let's keep the arms lifted, reaching wide, fingertips extending toward the ceiling. Exhaling here, just let your shoulders soften a little bit down your back. Draw your lowest ribs in toward your body, bringing some awareness to your core. Let's find two more long breaths here. If you'd like, you can start to lift your gaze up toward the ceiling, letting your heart rise, and maybe even floating those biceps back toward or behind your ears. Use your next exhale to bring the palms together and just gently float your hands and arms back down. Let's rest the hands at heart center, letting the shoulders soften down your back. Using an inhale, let's sweep the arms out and up again. Big breath in. And now exhale, bring your right hand down onto the mat. Find a side bend with your left arm reaching up and over. Soften your right shoulder down away from your ear. Now you can choose to either stay here, just stretching and opening through the side of your body. If it's okay in your shoulder, keep the side bend, but start to make big circles with that arm. Nice and slow. Just moving from your shoulder. Breathing as you go through those circles. You might start to move the other way. Again, we're moving here from the shoulder, so notice how your arm wants to open toward the ceiling. Notice how your hand wants to open toward the ceiling as you lift your arm. So you want to keep your shoulder in that safe alignment, just moving in a way that's comfortable. Let's all make our way back into that side bend, just lengthening through the left arm. 4 more breaths here, or bend your elbow, gently press your head back into your hand, sending that elbow up toward the ceiling. Use your next exhale to make your way back to a neutral seat. I'm just going to let the hands rest on the knees or the thighs. Soften your gaze and take a moment to bring your attention into the left side of your upper body. We're just sensing for any difference in sensation on the left side versus the right side, helping you kind of tune in to how's your body respond as it stretches open on that left side. We'll begin to make our way into the second side, inhaling, both arms sweep out and up. As you breathe out, bring that left hand down this time. Just finding the second side, bending the left elbow any amount as you reach the right arm up and over. Letting your neck be long, press the back of your head gently back. If you did so on the first side, you can start to find big circles. Doesn't really matter which direction you move in first, because we'll just do both. Big breaths, moving gently from your shoulder joint, letting your shoulder direct your arm. Start to move in the other direction if you haven't switched already. And let's come back into our side bend, right arm reaching up and over, keeping your arm extending towards straight, or bend your elbow, gently press your head back into your hand. And just checking in, is that okay in your shoulder, in your neck? If anything feels painful or like it's tweaking unsafely, then I'd invite you just to straighten that right arm back out. Using an exhale, release, come back to neutral. Rest your hands on your legs, draw your shoulders up into your ears, and then together and down on your back, finding a few big shoulder rolls. From here, let your shoulders just relax. Let's join the soles of the feet together. So we're early in our practice. Feet can be further out from your body, whatever is comfortable for you. Try to hold on somewhere around your shins, your ankles, or your feet, kind of whatever is within reach. And we'll begin just by focusing on lengthening our spine here. So really kind of sitting up tall, lifting your heart. This might feel like enough of a stretch for you already, so you can just stay here. If you'd like to fold further, draw your belly in, start to reach your heart toward your feet or over your feet. So keeping the spine long as you gently move into your hips. If it's okay in your body, elbows might gently press down into the thighs, helping the thighs, the hips open. As you breathe in, gently start to rise back up if you folded forward. Come back to that neutral spine. Hands come outside the thighs. Draw your knees together. Now we'll extend the left leg forward. I'm going to switch how I'm seated to demonstrate. Extend your left leg forward, bend your right knee, and plant your right foot on the ground. Now you can choose to either have your right foot planted on the inside of your left thigh, or you might cross it over. We'll move into a twist from here. Now flex your left foot, really strengthening up that extended leg, and draw your right thigh in towards your body. We'll hold on to the right knee with the left hand and inhale, reach your right arm toward the ceiling. As you exhale, sweep that right arm down behind you, tenting your fingertips on your mat. Just find your twist here, trying to keep some length in your spine. Use an exhale to unwind, make your way back to center. We'll counter twist, so bring your hands all the way around to the left, tighten your fingertips on the ground, and just gently counter twist in your spine. Make your way back to neutral. Let's extend both legs long on the mat. Take your feet out a little wider toward the edges of the mat. Just rest back on your hands behind you. Just gonna let the legs flop here. So really loosen the hip joints, just letting your legs flop side to side. And then making your way back to a neutral seat. Let's twist on the other side. So this time the right leg extends long. Plant your left foot. And the left foot can be, again, inside your thigh or cross it over, bringing the whole foot down to the outside of your thigh, whichever one feels most comfortable. I want to note that if you bring your foot across the thigh and your foot isn't on the floor or it's not entirely on the floor, then for today, bring your foot back to the inside of your thigh. Really want the ball of your foot, your heel connecting with your mat. From here, we'll hold the left knee with the right hand or forearm. Inhale, left arm. Exhale as you twist, bringing those fingertips down onto the ground behind you. Using an exhale, gently unwind, making your way back to neutral. And let's transition into our table pose. So at this point, we'll come onto our hands and knees. And if you'd like to place your blanket across your mat to pad your knees, I do recommend that, especially if, like me, you have hard floors. Oh, just stack the hips above the knees, the shoulders above the wrists. Spreading the fingers, grounding down through your finger pads, and pressing down with your knees, the tops of your feet, feeling your legs and your core start to strengthen up. Let's move through some cat-cows together. Inhale, lower your belly, lift your gaze, draw your shoulders back, and let your tailbone reach up toward the ceiling. Exhale, belly draws in. Let's round the spine, pressing hands and knees down, drawing your belly up and in. And then just moving with your breath. Inhales as you arch your back. Exhales as you round. You can continue cat-cows, or you can start to circle the winds, a little bit of a bigger movement in your hips. Exhale back to child's pose, sending hips back toward your heels. And then you'll inhale, gaze forward, flare your elbows out to the side as you glide your heart forward to your wrists, and then push up into your cow pose. So I'll demonstrate again. We round the back, sending those hips to the heels. Then inhale, glide the heart forward and press up into your cow pose. So just finding any variation there, working through your hips, your spine, your shoulders. As you're ready, make your way back to a table pose, and let's all find our child's pose, walking the knees out wide, bringing your big toes together, and rocking your hips back toward or to your heels. You can walk your hands forward on your mat to lengthen the sides of your body, and then gently let your forehead melt down either onto a block or onto the floor. If you'd like a wrist release here, you can lift your hands off the floor and just gently circle your fists, giving your wrists a little breather. Using an inhale, start to make your way back up onto your hands and knees. Just coming back into your table pose. Now I'll invite you to find a modified side plank here. We're going to take the right calf and actually swing it off your mat to the right, and then step your left foot to the back of your mat. So the left foot, left toes, and your right knee should be in the same line here. Right wrist is under your shoulder. You can start to let your left hand reach up toward the ceiling. Just pressing the hips forward to help open the front of your body, grounding down through the outer edge of your left foot, lengthening. And if this is available and comfortable, you can reach that left arm forward and then sweep it overhead, finding a really long side body stretch. Noticing your breath here. Push down into your right hand to rise up out of your right shoulder. So we're trying not to just collapse down into that shoulder. Rather, we're rising up away from the floor. Use your next exhale to release. Come back to table pose. Can give your right wrist a release here, just circling it a couple times, or give it the hand a nice shake. And then when you're ready, we'll just find that same pose on the other side. This time the left calf swings to the left off your mat as you step your right foot to the back of the mat. So you're kind of making a tripod with your knee and your foot. Outside edge of your right foot grounds down. Using an inhale, right arm reaches toward the ceiling. Gently letting the hips press forward, helping the upper body open, the front body lengthen. And if you did this before and if you liked it, reach your right arm forward and then sweep it overhead just to protect your shoulder. Notice what your head's doing here. Is your head just kind of hanging down? Can you let your head be an extension of your spine? Letting the crown of your head reach toward the front of your mat, a little bit toward the back behind you. Using an exhale, start to make your way back into your table pose. Now you might choose to stay in tabletop today, keeping the shoulders over your wrists, your hips over your knees. Of course, if you're comfortable taking downward facing dog, you're welcome to do that. Tucking your toes under, letting your hips lift up and back as you find a little bit of movement. Wherever you choose to be is completely fine. Downward dog is not very restful of a pose for many folks, especially if you have any kind of issues in your shoulders. It's actually not a great pose on your shoulders. So I just encourage anyone who feels down dog isn't great for you and your body today, find a table pose instead. Focus on the grounding sensation of your knees and your palms pressing down. If you're in downward dog, find a few breaths in stillness, sending your hips high and your heels down toward the floor. Take one more long breath in and a full breath out. And then we'll gaze forward and we'll all make our way up to the front of the mat. So we're going to come up into standing pose at the front, however that makes sense for you. And leave your blanket where it is for now. Finding your way into a flat back at the front of your mat. Nice little bend in the knees, hands to your shins, and trying to lengthen your spine, taking the curves out of your back. Notice your belly, your lowest ribs. Can you bring some engagement into the core of your body? With an exhale, bend your knees more and let your upper body hang down, folding forward all the way. Your hands might rest on a pillow or your blocks or the floor if they reach. Let your head nod a few times. Release your jaw. Your hands might just hang heavy, or you can find ragdoll holding opposite elbows. Feel free to find a little bit of a sway in your upper body. Releasing your hands down, inhale, flat back, lift and lengthen. Let's exhale here, bringing your hands onto your hips, strengthening up both thighs. Your next inhale, lift your upper body with a flat back, coming all the way up to standing. Let's find our mountain pose, just letting the arms relax down beside you, your shoulders softening down your back. And just feeling equally weighted across both feet. You might again just find that little sway side to side. Noticing, does one leg hold more of your weight than the other? Does one side feel a little more or less balanced? Starting to come to a place of stillness at the front of your mat, standing in that center line, gazing forward. Let's inhale, sweep the arms out and up. Soften your knees. Exhale, swan dive forward, folding all the way down. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Gaze forward, flip your palms. Use an inhale to sweep your arms out and up, rising with a flat back. Exhale, hands to heart center. Take a long breath here, just letting yourself settle back into your feet. And we'll move through that once again, just a little half sun salutation. Inhale, arms sweep out and up. Exhale, soften your knees, hinge at your hips, dive all the way forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Gaze forward, inhale, reverse that swan dive. Rise with a flat back. Exhale, hands to heart center. Again, a long breath, just noticing what you notice in your body. Maybe a little more energy moving, maybe your breath moving a little faster. All right, we'll do that once more. Inhale, sweep arms out and up. Soften knees, exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sweep your arms out and up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Let's keep moving. Inhale, arms sweep up. Soften knees, exhale, dive down. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold, bend your knees, and walk your feet back, either coming into your knee plank with your knees down on the mat, knees behind your hips this time, so really strengthening up the belly, or full plank pose, toes tucked under, hips lifted to the height of your shoulders. We want the shoulders above the wrists here. Hug your navel in toward your spine. Fire up your thighs if your knees are lifted. Let's take 4 breaths. Using your next exhale, let your knees come down. Keep your belly strong as you bend elbows beside your ribs and lower your belly and heart onto the ground. Rolling over your toes, let's walk elbows forward, and we'll find our Sphinx pose. So you want forearms parallel, palms planted on the floor, toes pointed behind you, and you can press your feet down, strengthening up your legs. Draw your shoulders back, press down into your elbows to lift your heart. Keeping your neck long, crown of your head reaching up and maybe a little bit forward, just to help lengthen through the neck. Using an exhale, rest your heart. Walk your hands back under your shoulders. Inhale, push up, table pose. And either stay in table or tuck your toes under and find downward facing dog again. And we'll find 4 breaths, table or downward dog. As you feel ready, gaze forward, start to make your way up to the front of the mat, and we'll all meet there in a flat back. So walking up from table or from down dog, you'll inhale, flat back, lengthen your spine. Exhale, bend your knees and fold. Now bring your fingertips around your feet. If you have blocks or something to use as blocks, you can of course use those around your feet. Today we're going to step the right foot to the back of the mat and bring the right knee onto the ground. So finding a low lunge, left foot forward today, switching it up a little bit. Want your left knee stacked above your left ankle. So there's some safety and support there in your knee joint. Your back toes can stay tucked under, or you can untuck your back toes, flattening that foot onto the ground. Let's go ahead and plant the right hand under the shoulder and bring your left hand just onto your left thigh. Gently start to twist your shoulders, finding a twist, gazing to your left. You can use your left hand on your thigh for some leverage, or you might extend your left hand up toward the ceiling, helping to twist your ribs and your heart open. Exhale, start to float your left hand back down to the floor and come up onto our fingertips. You might stay right here with your hands resting where they are. And if you're looking for a more restful practice, this is a great place to be. Another option is to start to engage your thighs and your belly. Lift your upper body and rest both hands on top of each other on your left thigh. Press your hands down into your thigh. Press your foot down into the floor. If you'd like to add on here and challenge your balance a little more, first bring awareness to your center, hugging in around your navel. And from there, start to lift both arms. Biceps can be beside your ears. If it's more comfortable in your shoulders, bend at the elbows, just finding cactus arms, squeezing the shoulder blades together on your back. As you exhale, start to bring your hands back down to blocks or the floor, fingertips content. And tuck your back toes under, fire up that back thigh, and lift your back knee off the floor for more of a runner's lunge. Spend a breath or two here, trying to lift your heart, gazing forward, reaching your back heel toward the back wall. And then you might take one or more than one step with that back foot. You're gonna work it all the way up to the front of the mat, and we'll fold forward over both legs. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your fingertips down onto the floor. And we'll find the second side. And this time your left foot steps all the way to the back of your mat. And you'll bring that left knee down. So right foot's forward, just making your way into that same lunge position. Make sure your right knee is stacked above your ankle. And now bring your left hand down to your mat under your shoulder and your right hand onto your right thigh. From there, just gently twist your shoulders, your ribs to the right. Feel free to keep your right hand where it is or start to reach it up toward the ceiling. As you exhale, start to float right hand back down. Let's come onto our tented fingertips. And now you get to choose. We have three options here, either keeping your hands where they are, strengthening your thighs, and bringing your hands up onto that right thigh. And we'll actually start out here. So if you are planning on lifting your arms, let's hang out here first with your hands pressing down into that front knee, anchoring your right foot, the ball of your right foot down. Find your gaze to rest on a single point in front of you. And then as you're ready, you might choose to float your arms up. Biceps beside the ears, arms lifted and straight, or bending at the elbows, opening across your chest. Using an exhale, float your hands gently back down to the ground or your blocks. Let's tuck the back toes under, lift your back knee, and start to fire up that back thigh. So really seeing how straight you can get your back leg, pressing the back of your knee up toward the ceiling. And then engaging through the belly, let your heart start to lift, your gaze moving forward. Just a couple breaths here. And then taking one or more steps, start to work your back foot up toward the front of your mat. We'll fold forward at the front. Make sure your feet are hips width distance apart. Start to bend your knees, drop your weight back into your heels. Let your belly rest on your thighs. From here, bring your hands onto your hips. Inhale, let your heart lift, chair pose. Now you might stay here with your hands on your hips as you're sinking those hips down. If you want to build even more heat, start to lift your arms up, straightening them, or cactus arms, squeezing shoulder blades together on your back. Keep letting the weight sink back toward your heels. If you want, you might lift your toes up off the ground. Making sure you can see your toes, so those knees are moving back, hips are moving back. Using an exhale, let's belly to thighs, release, folding over your legs. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Plant your palms, walk or step your feet back, finding either plank pose or knee plank with your knees down. Four breaths from whichever variation you're choosing here. On your next exhale, we'll all lower either through your knees or shifting forward and coming all the way down in one piece. Roll over your toes, draw your shoulders back, hug your elbows in. As you inhale, you start to find a baby cobra, just letting the heart lift a little bit off the mat. We have very light weight in the palms, and you might even float your hands up off the ground. As you exhale, gently release, your forehead lightly touches down. Inhale, push yourself back up into a table pose. And let's all find our child's pose again. Knees out wide, big toes together. Let your hips sink back and down as your forehead rests on a block or the floor. And gently rock your forehead side to side on your mat in your child's pose, letting some tension release from your neck and jaw. And just a reminder that as we move through the remainder of our practice, you can always find child's pose on your own, just taking rest there. If at any point you feel your breath's moving a little too quickly or your body is feeling just a little fatigued, give yourself rest. Lift your gaze. Inhale, make your way back up into a table pose, walking those knees under your hips. You can stay in tabletop or tuck your toes under and find downward facing dog. And taking your time, gaze forward, start to make your way up to the front of the mat. We'll meet there in a flat back from wherever you're coming from. Lengthening the spine, hands to shins. Exhale, soften your knees, fold forward. Gazing forward, flip your palms. Inhale and rise with a long, flat back. Exhale, hands to heart center. Let's pause here, just letting your gaze soften once again. With your thumbs lightly resting against your heart center, you might be able to feel the beating of your heart. Or perhaps the movement of your breath expanding and contracting through your chest. So anytime we're just tuning in to what's happening in our bodies, it immediately can bring our mind into the present moment. Because while the mind likes to travel into the past and the future, the body is always right here, right now. Let's bring hands onto our hips, and I'll invite you to find a warrior two pose. We'll start with the left foot forward again. So I'll switch sides. So you want your left foot forward, right foot back. You're gonna bend into that left knee and invite the left knee to be either above your ankle or behind your ankle. So if you find that maybe your front knee is going, notice how the front knee is in front of my ankle here. That's pretty unsafe on the joints. We don't want to hang out there for long. So if that's you, just step that back foot back a little bit so you can draw this front knee back above the ankle. Strengthen up through the back thigh, and then start to extend your arms out to the sides, gazing over your front fingertips. So I realize that may have been confusing because I'm switching which side of my mat is in the front, but we just have the left foot forward. So wherever your front is, bring your left foot up there. Let your awareness move down into the lower half of your body. And just check in with your feet and their connection with the ground. Notice if you're gripping those toes, like tightening up around the knuckles, and can you let your toes be a little bit lighter on the ground? Let's flip the front palm over. Using an inhale, start to reverse your warrior. Today, we're just gonna let the back hand rest lightly on the back thigh. No weight in that back hand, it's just hanging out there. The left arm is reaching up toward the ceiling, and we're keeping that lunge in the front knee. So we're really stretching the side body here, the front side body. Three more breaths here, or bend your left elbow and let your head rest back into your hand. As you exhale, find your way back into a warrior two. Both arms extend out from the shoulders. And then inhale, start to straighten your front knee, but try to keep a gentle bend in the knee so we're not locking. We'll start to move toward triangle pose, letting the left hand reach forward over the left leg. Now, when you can't reach forward anymore, let your shoulders pivot and bring this left hand to rest anywhere on the left shin or on a block. The right arm reaches up. So both legs are moving towards straight here, and we're trying to fit the body into one plane. So the right hip's kind of stacking on top of the left hip. The upper body is leaning over the front leg, and the shoulders are stacked. Start to find a gentle bend in that front knee. Push down into your feet to come back up, warrior two. And then let's bring the hands to the hips, gaze to the front of your mat, and take one or more steps up to the front. So we'll move into a tree pose, a balancing pose, standing on our left foot. Again, we're still using that left foot right now. For balancing, now we are at home, so you might use a wall or something in your house to help you balance. If you want to hold on to something, then I really recommend that. You want to make sure that you're safe and you're comfortable. So for tree pose, we'll start by standing on that left foot, hands on the hips, just starting to shift your weight to the left. You might bring your right ankle to tent against your left, or your right heel to tent against your left ankle. Well, keeping those right toes on the floor for now. Just sensing how most of your weight is moving into your left leg and left foot. You might stay right here. If you feel like you're balanced enough, you can float your right foot up onto your calf. I want everyone to just be mindful not to press your foot into your knee. So our knees don't like to go sideways. It doesn't want to be pushed out to the side. So just be really mindful your heel on that right foot is landing above or below your knee. Let your gaze soften at a single point in front of you and start to sweep your arms up, turning the palms toward each other, arms out wide, shoulders soften down your back. If you lose your balance a little bit here, you just make your way back into the pose. I find that the softer my body is here, the easier it actually is to balance. So if you think of a tree blowing in the breeze, they move a lot. Okay? Balance is actually a very dynamic state. You might be able to feel all those little micro adjustments in your standing foot as it keeps that foot rooted. And sometimes we make those adjustments a little too much and then we kind of fall over. We just have to come back in. Let's start to join the palms together above you. And using an exhale, trace your midline. And we'll release our tree pose. You can step that foot down, or you might be able to play with just keeping it lifted. We're gonna lift the knee, squaring the hips. I'm gonna turn sideways so you can see a little bit better. So I'm just lifting that right knee to the height of the hip if that's available. flexing the foot. If you want, you can hold under the thigh. If that makes it a little more accessible. And you have the option here to try to start extending that right leg, reaching through the ball of the foot. Breathing. Exhale, release. You might shift your weight a little side to side again. Just kind of feeling how it is to stand on both feet, back on the floor. And then we're going to move into that same sequence on the other side, starting with our warrior two. So you want your right foot forward this time. We'll work the left foot back. Find your warrior two stance, bending into your right knee this time. Left toes angle out to the left side, straight left leg. When you're ready, add on the arms, just floating them out, straight out from the shoulders, letting your gaze settle over your front fingertips. Flip your front palm over, using an inhale, reverse warrior. Let your left hand just rest very lightly on your back leg as your right hand reaches up and away from your right hip. Keep a nice bend in that front knee. So sometimes when we go into reverse warrior, we start to straighten our front knee. Instead, we want to keep a lunge there, keeping that warrior two posture in the legs. Keeping your arms straight or bend your elbow and let your head fall back into your hand, lifting your elbow toward the ceiling even more. As you exhale, release back to warrior two. Start to straighten into your front knee without locking your knee. And then begin to reach your right hand as far forward as you can. You might feel your hips pivot or shift a bit. Just getting really long through the right side, then letting the shoulders pivot. Right hand comes down onto right shin or a block. Left hand reaches up, stacking the shoulders. Trying to open your heart to the left side of your room, or perhaps even starting to spin your heart a little bit more up toward the ceiling. Be mindful of your head here. Same thing, just let it be an extension of your spine. Gently pressing the back of your head back, keeping your neck long. Let's gaze down toward the right foot. Start to bend into your right knee. Push down into your feet to lift your upper body and let your hands come back onto your hips. We're going to gaze forward. Take one or more steps up to the front of your mat. We're still standing on the right foot. Let's move into our balancing sequence. Tree pose. Now, if you did so on the first side, again, you might step off your mat, go find a chair, a table, something to hold on to. Even putting one finger onto the wall can really support you finding your balance with perhaps a bit more ease. And just giving yourself that finger on the wall. And then you can always take your finger off the wall as you're practicing with your balance. So let's shift weight onto the right foot. Bring your left heel just to rest against your right ankle. Both feet still on the floor. We're just sending most of our weight into the right leg, right foot. For balancing, the gaze really matters. So finding a spot in front of you, something to look at that's not moving. And just letting your gaze soften at a single focal point as you start to float your left foot up onto your calf. Of course, you might bring that foot up onto your thigh, just again, not onto the knee. If you'd like to add on the arms, you can start to float them up. Really wide through the arms to start. Palms open, just like big branches on an old California oak tree, sprawling out into the sky. Noticing your breath, relaxing your jaw. And feeling all those little micro adjustments that your standing leg and foot are using to keep your foot rooted to the ground. Start to join your palms together overhead. As you exhale, float your hands down to heart center and then onto your hips. Now you might bring your left foot to the ground, or you might just try to work with this transition of just lifting the knee, flexing your foot, or moving more into that hip squared position, lifting your thigh about parallel to the ground. Of course, you can hold onto your thigh with both hands if you prefer that. And you have the option here to start reaching through the ball of the foot and extending that left leg. As you exhale, start to float your leg down. Again, just letting your weight rock from one foot to the other. Just feeling both your feet connecting to your mat. Notice if you might feel a bit more grounded into your feet. All right, if you're not there already, make your way up to the front of your mat. Feet hips width distance. As you inhale, sweep your arms out and up. Soften your knees. Exhale, hinge at your hips, dive down. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Plant palms, walk or step your feet back. Plank or knee plank, and move through a vinyasa of your choice. So you might lower all the way down and come up into cobra pose, as we did before, or you might shift forward, lower about halfway, roll over your toes, inhale, upward dog, strong thighs. Thighs are off the mat. And then as you exhale, let your hips pick you up and back, downward dog. So we'll hang out in either a table pose, a down dog, or a child's pose for 4 long breaths. Let your knees come down if you're in down dog. Let's all make our way around to seated. You can feel free just to leave your blanket where it is for right now. Scoot yourself forward toward the front of your mat. Plant your feet on the ground. Keep your knees bent. Reach your arms forward, and let's start to gently roll down the back. So you're going to round your spine as you roll down one vertebra at a time. Try to draw your abdomen in toward your body, keeping those muscles engaged. Try to keep your feet planted. If they come up a little bit, that's okay. Make your way down onto your back. Bend your knees, and then start to send both feet straight up into the air. The arms can be down beside you, palms on the ground. So just let your legs float up toward the ceiling. And I'm going to invite you to join me in some core work. Now, this was a request for today, so of course it is optional, just like everything. If at any point you feel fatigued and like you're over this, let yourself take a rest. Make this class your own. From here, we're going to breathe out as you lower your feet about 6 inches. Then pause as you breathe in. Then as you exhale, lower your feet another 6 inches. Exhale, 6 inches. Hug that navel in. Exhale, 6 inches. Now, if you're already on the ground, then your 6 inches are probably more like 1.5 feet or so. That's okay. Once we get down to the ground, we're just going to make our way back up. So you have the hang of this by now. You can keep lowering. And if you want to add on more, lift your gaze and gaze to your toes. All right, once your feet come all the way down to the ground, you can either choose to let yourself rest, or you can bend your knees, send your feet up into the air, and do it again. And just taking a breath, taking a break anytime you need. If this feels uncomfortable on your low back, you might explore bending your knees and just letting your knees lower bit by bit till your feet come down. All right, you can either let yourself rest and take a break. If you want to add on a little bit more core work, I'm going to invite you to lift your gaze, bring your hands behind your head, interlace your fingers. Try not to pull on your neck here. We're just helping to support the head. Going to bend the knees, lift the feet. Let's just find some bicycle legs here, extending the right leg, then bending the right knee, extending the left leg. And just finding your breath here as you move. Keeping your toes flared, reaching through the balls of your feet. Notice if your abdomen muscles want to pop forward, and then try to draw your abdomen in. So it's this idea of really containing the muscles of your core, hugging inward, becoming in close relationship with your center. Let's do 10 more. If you're still going, of course, you might be resting, and that's great. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Both knees bend, feet plant. Let your head relax down, your arms rest on your mat or on the floor. Just allow yourself a few full breaths. You might walk your feet out toward the edges of your mat, let your thighs knock together in the middle. Notice what sensations you notice in your abdomen. And if you have shaky feeling in your body right now, that's great. That is completely fine. That means there's energy moving in your body. Your muscles are breaking down a little bit so they can be rebuilt even stronger. Let's take the arms out to a T from your shoulders. Turn your palms up toward the ceiling. Walk your feet back in towards center and either keep your feet where they are or lift your knees one more time, and we'll find a twist to the right side, letting the knees come down to the right. And you might bring a block or a blanket under your knees or between your thighs for added comfort. And your gaze can be anywhere your neck is comfortable here, perhaps starting to move over your left shoulder to bring this twist all the way up your spine. See if you can soften and relax your left shoulder down. Bring your gaze back to the ceiling and lift your knees back to center. Gently make your way into your twist on the left side, letting both knees come down. Your gaze can move anywhere that's okay in your neck, or start to float your gaze over the right shoulder as your right shoulder relaxes toward the floor. Gaze to the ceiling, bring your knees back to center. And I invite you to move into just a gentle bridge pose. So we did a lot of ab work, and I want to offer something to stretch the abs back out, kind of open up the front body. Walk your heels in as close as you're able to, your glutes, and bring your arms down beside you, turning your palms down onto the ground. Let's just first work with the hips and the back still planted on the ground. So we're just going to work with the hips a little bit, starting to curl your tailbone under. You might feel your hips and your low back even start to lift up a little bit. And then we're going to move in the opposite direction, letting the tailbone flare out, find a little arch in your low back. And let's just move through that a couple times. So just curling the tail under, feeling your thighs start to strengthen up as your low back begins to lift. And then arch through the low back, let your tailbone reach down into the ground. Starting to loosen up through that low back. And then let's all curl the tailbone under. Feel your low back start to lift up. And then press into your heels and let your whole back float up off the ground. You can let this be just gentle today, pressing those knees forward, taking some big breaths into your belly. Can you expand your belly like a balloon after all that core work that you did? Start to curl your tailbone under and gently roll back down the length of your spine. And when your low back connects with the ground, lift your knees, keep your knees out wide, and catch the front of your knees or shins. So drawing thighs into the chest with the knees out wide, keeping that low back open. You can gently rock side to side here, massaging across the top of your hips and glutes. And drawing those knees into your chest. Give yourself a nice big hug option to lift your head and shoulders off the floor. Just squeezing everything in towards your heart. Give yourself a warm embrace. And then start to find your way into Shavasana. You can find a resting pose any way that you'd like here. Maybe keeping the knees bent, the thighs resting together. Maybe extending your legs long and taking up a lot of space with your body, expanding through the shoulders, the chest. As you get yourself settled in, just allow your head to gently rock side to side on your mat, releasing any final tension from your neck, jaw, mouth. And let your head find that perfect spot to rest right in the center of the back of your head. Notice how the mat supports you so you can relax your neck. And I'll invite you either to close your eyes or just let your gaze soften toward the ceiling. Take a long breath in through your nose. And then open your mouth and just sigh it out. Letting go of any controlled breathing you've been working with and just allowing your body to breathe itself naturally. Just allowing any effort, any holding to soften a little bit with each breath out. And notice as you breathe out and you feel one layer of relaxation happening. Is there another layer underneath that with your next breath out? Can you keep bringing yourself a little more relaxed into a bit more of a calm space just through those long, soft exhales? Just gradually begin to bring awareness back into your body and your breath. And keeping your body still and calm, can you simply notice how it is to be relaxing on your mat? And just observe what quality of experience is present inside of you right now. And there's no wrong answer to that question. And sometimes after yoga, you might feel more space or more peace. And sometimes you might not feel either one of those things. And that's okay too, because the yoga practice is just about meeting yourself exactly where you are in that moment. And start to wiggle through your fingers and your toes. Point and flex your feet and circle your wrists. You might relax your jaw again here and rock your head side to side on your mat. And if you feel inclined to find a big stretch today, extend those arms overhead, bring your feet together, and really lengthen and extend and stretch your body. And then just gently bending your knees, roll yourself over onto either side, and let yourself rest there with your knees drawn in toward your chest, your upper arm or your lower arm supporting your head. Ever so slowly, keeping your gaze soft, begin to press your way all the way up and find any comfortable seat on your mat. Once you've come into that comfortable seat, with your shoulders stacking above your hips, let your hands rest in your lap, or option to join your palms together at heart center. It's connecting your hands with your heart again, resting the thumbs against your sternum. And I just invite all of you to take a moment to send yourself a big thank you. Thank you, self, for showing up today. Send yourself thank you for moving your body and for finding some more presence today. And thank you all for being here. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.